Good morning guys, welcome to Suhi's Gardening. Today let us do some interesting experiment to find out which will be the best rooting hormone for our plants. Many uses the rooting powder which is available in the market to induce rooting of our plants, and some use cinnamon powder, and some use honey, and some mix both honey and cinnamon in order to induce rooting for our plants. But I just want to check which will be the best rooting hormone for our plants, and today I'm just going to do an experiment with the money plant which is called as pothos. So for this experiment I have taken 5 separate disposable cups. So I have labeled the cups as honey, cinnamon, rooting powder, honey and cinnamon. The fifth one I have not labeled because I'm not going to use any rooting hormone. So I have got a big twig of pothos. I'm just going to cut this into 5 equal parts. So I have now got 5 equal parts of our pothos. So now let us dip our rooting hormone. So now I'm just going to fill all the tumblers 3/4 with water. So this is just plain water what we use for our normal day-to-day activities. So now let us start from this end. So first will be the honey. So I'm just adding honey in this box, and third will be the honey and cinnamon. So I'm just adding a drop of honey and a pinch of cinnamon powder, and a pinch of cinnamon powder. Fourth will be our rooting powder. This is a commercially available rooting powder, and the chemical ingredient in this powder is indole 3-butyric acid. So this is our plain cup. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to dip these rooting hormones and keep the twigs in the respective cups. So first is honey. So I'm just dipping that end of our pothos in honey and keep that in our cup. The second will be our cinnamon powder. So I'm just touching. So while keeping that, see to it which end is the bottom and which one is the top. So that is very important. So I'm just dipping the one end of my root end of my pothos plant in cinnamon powder and keeping it in water. So third will be the mixture of cinnamon powder and honey. So I'm just going to mix this and touch in my root tip and just keep it in water. So fourth will be our commercial rooting powder. So I'm just dipping that. So I'm just dipping my pothos plant in it and keeping it. So fifth will be our plain water. So I'm just keeping both these twigs because I don't want to waste it. So I'm just keeping both these twigs in water. So I have kept all our experimental twigs in this tray. I'm just going to keep it in a place where we get adequate light. I'm just going to grow this in an artificial light, and let us wait and watch after a week.
It is exactly the first week after we have started our experiment to find out which will be the best rooting hormone for our plants. And to my surprise, the honey and cinnamon powder have given the first root. There is no evidence of rooting in other samples. So this is a sample of cinnamon, and if you see, there is no evidence of rooting in cinnamon. There is no evidence of rooting it in sample of honey also. There is no evidence of rooting it in the sample of rooting powder, and also there is no evidence of rooting in the plain sample where we don't use any rooting hormone.
So this is exactly 2 weeks after we have started our experiment to find out which is the best rooting mix for our plants. And 2 days before, I saw the first root in the sample of honey and cinnamon powder, and I'll just show you now. So this is the sample of honey and cinnamon. So if you see, I could see the first root in this sample of honey and cinnamon. This is the sample in which we use cinnamon powder. You could see a small root has come in this cinnamon powder now, and I think cinnamon is one of the good rooting hormone to use. So this is a sample in which we use honey as the rooting hormone. No evidence of root yet. Now let us see the sample in which we use the rooting powder, the commercially available rooting powder as rooting hormone. So in this also we couldn't see any evidence of rooting yet, but there are some spots. Maybe within a week some roots may appear. So this is the plain thing in which we didn't use any rooting hormone. Let us see this. So in one of the twig there is no evidence of rooting yet. In another twig I could see a small root coming out of it. You could see this. So let us wait and watch after a week. So what is going to happen in these samples? So this is exactly 3 weeks after we have started our experiment. And so the first one is a honey and cinnamon sample, and yes, I could see a big root in this sample. So honey and cinnamon rooting mix have worked out well, and the rooting is faster in this sample when compared to others. Now let us see the cinnamon sample. So this is cinnamon sample. In cinnamon sample also the rooting is faster. See, a big root has come out of it in 3 weeks. So in honey sample I couldn't see any evidence of rooting. If you see, there is no evidence of rooting in this honey sample. So let us wait and watch in further coming days. Now it is the rooting powder. So this is the commercially available rooting powder. So in this sample also I couldn't see any evidence of rooting yet in the period of 3 weeks. So now let us see the plain sample in which we didn't use any rooting mix. In this we have kept two shoots. One is the tip of shoot and other one is the normal twig. So in the normal twig there is no evidence of rooting, but when you see this tip twig, that is a tip twig, there is a rooting is evident in this. So always the tip of the plant or any shoot will have more power of regeneration, and even though we have not used any rooting mix, the rooting is evident in this tip of our pothos twig. And so this is the tip of our pothos twig which we cut, and rooting is evident even if we didn't use any rooting mix. So let us watch this also in the further coming days. So this is 4th week of our experiment to find out which will be our best rooting hormone, and let us see the development of the roots now. So first let us as usual starts with our honey and cinnamon. So yeah, the root has developed bigger when compared to our 3rd week, and as you know that honey and cinnamon has given the first root. Now let us see the cinnamon sample.
So in the cinnamon sample also the root has grown bigger. Now let us see the honey sample. So in the honey sample, a new root has come for the first time in the 4th week. So till 3 weeks there was no root evident in this honey sample, but now small roots are evident in this sample of honey. So now let us see the rooting powder sample. So in the rooting powder sample also till 3 weeks there was no roots evident. In the 4th week we could see a small root coming out of it. In the plain sample, in one twig there is no root evident, but in another twig there is a small root evident. So this root is evident from the 3rd week. So let us wait for another week before concluding the results of an experiment to say which rooting hormone is the best for our plants. This is exactly 5th week after we have started our experiment to find out which is the best rooting hormone. So as usual, let us start with our honey and cinnamon sample. So it has given a big root, but and I could see new shoot also coming out of this sample. The second one is the cinnamon sample. In the cinnamon sample also the root has become bigger when compared to last week, and I couldn't see any shoot or new leaf coming out of it. Now the third thing is a honey sample. So in this sample no evidence of root yet. Fourth one is rooting powder. So in this sample also we have a long root, and a new leaf has also come out of this twig, and this is a new leaf of the twig. So and our last one is a plain sample in which we didn't use any rooting hormone. So in this sample, out of 2 twigs we have kept, 1 twig have shown no evidence of rooting yet. So the other twig has a small root, and I have already told you the tip of any plant will have more regeneration capacity, and this is the tip I have used. So without any rooting hormone itself, the tip have regenerated itself quickly in comparable with the other samples. To conclude our experiment, after 5th week, to find out which will be the best rooting hormone for our plants, we can clearly say that honey and cinnamon powder blend is one of the best rooting hormone for our plants. So honey and cinnamon powder sample has taken the lead of giving the root faster. The honey and cinnamon powder sample have given the first root of all our samples, and this root development was much more faster when compared to other samples. In the second place, we have just the cinnamon powder, and so the rooting was also faster in cinnamon powder sample, but second only to honey and cinnamon. In the third place, we have our commercially available rooting powder. In this also the rooting was faster, but it was like third only to the other 2 samples. And also one thing I have to say is, in the commercially available rooting powder, the shoot system development was faster when compared to other samples. So what I want to say by this experiment is, to those people who always say I don't have rooting hormone at my home, or I don't want to spend so much money in buying a rooting hormone, so you don't need to spend money. You can use the things which is available in your kitchen in order to induce rooting to your plants. So cinnamon sticks and honey will be available in most of our kitchen. So to those people who don't know what a cinnamon powder is, I just want to show you the cinnamon sticks. So these are all the cinnamon sticks which we use in our Indian cooking. So what I did was, I just ground these cinnamon sticks to powder. So if you have cinnamon powder by itself, it is well and good. So this cinnamon powder and honey will be one of the best rooting hormone to your plants. Hope you guys like this video. Let us meet in another video.